Good afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure to welcome Moshira Khattab, a friend, a partner in many meetings, and a former Wilson Center public policy scholar. She is currently the chair of the Egyptian Women in Foreign Policy Group of the Egyptian Council of Foreign Affairs and was recently chosen as an international board member of the Women in Diplomacy Committee established by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which aims to promote the role of women in diplomacy and leadership positions. She's also currently a visiting professor on gender issues and human rights at Perugia University in Italy. Of course, all of you know that Moshira is the former Minister of Family and Population of Egypt, as well as she was Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs and Vice Chair of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. I'm always envious when I introduce this part of her CV. She was Egypt's ambassador to South Africa during the Nelson Mandela era and ambassador of Egypt to the Czech Republic and Slovakia during the formation, meaning she served under Václav Havel. So to be able to meet the two giants of the 20th century is envious. She really is a strong activist in human rights and the rights of women and children, and in 2013, she ranked third among the 5 leading female human rights activists in the Middle East and North Africa region. And one of her major achievements was the criminalizing female genital mutilation and prohibiting child marriage in Egypt. We just published her latest piece. I urge you to read that. It's called Egypt's Fight Against FGM. Is There Hope After All? So please do get the link from our website and make sure you read this. Today Moshira is going to talk about what Egyptian women have achieved since 2011. And she will give us ample time to put tough questions to her. Moshira, you have the floor, and welcome back to the center.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Hala, for such an introduction. I don't know if I deserve it, and definitely it is a pleasure to be back at the Wilson Center, and I follow very, very closely the great work done by this center, and I am very proud to see it climbing to 5th place among the leading American think tanks. So congratulations for the team. Hale, you gave me some nice introduction, and I think you provide a role model, really, and you've been managing or directing, or running, as you like to say it, the Middle East program in a very professional way, and also being very busy does not prevent you from having this human touch, let me say, maybe a characteristic of us Middle Easterns. So thank you very much for everything. In preparing for my speech today, I decided to pick the brains of my daughter. I have to confess, I always do that when it's time to talk about Egypt in another country, in another culture. And my daughter is typically a liberal, young, well-educated woman, a kind of woman that I really would like to see more involved in following and contributing to the development in Egypt. She calls herself third culture kid because as the daughter of a diplomat, she's been going to many places, educated in many places, and really she has this objectivity and ability to detach herself from events, and always her judgment has been eye-opening for me. And I have to say that when I asked her what she thinks of the position of Egyptian women, I was taken aback by her feedback. In fact, I was a little disappointed at her nonchalance. She asked me to consider the fact that Egyptian women were instrumental in the success of the 25th January revolution. She pointed to the fact that Egyptian women set aside their rights, their cause, and they joined the Egyptian people in calling for national objectives, national demands. And she thinks that, they have done that to turn around to find that the country has moved on and left women behind. She said, Mommy, at the time when the Tunisian government announced the numbers of female ministers and assistant ministers, or what do you call it? Secrétaire d'État. A leading Egyptian newspaper had its headline, the Prime Minister, quoting the Prime Minister, governors announced next week, no women governors. And she thought that this was not fair. I started writing my speech, and as I was heading to the airport, the news were out that the three female deputy governors were sworn in before the president. And I must say that this was a big surprise because we were told over and over, no women governors. For many reasons, they thought it was tough for women. Actually, I didn't have time to go back to my daughter and ask her, now that we have 3 female deputy governors, what do you think? Well, anyway, I'm not here to defend the Prime Minister, and I am not here to speak about the history of the struggle of Egyptian women. I'm sure many of you are following. I only want to take you back to mid-90s when we had huge debate about women judges or female judges. And we heard a lot of objections, and now we have many female judges and very, very successful judges. So I believe that women governors will turn from a matter of debate to a matter of fact, exactly the same like female judges. And this really brings me to the crux of the status of Egyptian women. My argument is that the status of women, maybe in Egypt or any other country, is a function of both education and culture. When combined properly, education and culture can be tools for liberation. On the flip side, miseducation and cultural manipulation serve to instill discrimination and oppression. Of course, it's not as simple as a curriculum and a classroom, because religion is part of the culture and education is not confined to classrooms or to schools. Oftentimes, brainwashing in the name of religion cannot be undone by hundreds of hours spent in the classroom. If we talk about the status of women since 2011, the past 4 years, I must say that the Egyptian women have won big time, big time. Women proved to be a critical mass on every occasion in which their country called upon them, and I'm sure you've seen on television queues, long queues of Egyptian women casting their vote. In this realization, I don't know if you follow or not, the President El-Sisi spares no occasion to make recognition of the efforts of women, show his appreciation. And I want to remind you of the victim of sexual harassment in Tahrir Square the night he was inaugurated. The first function he exercised as a president was to visit the victim in the hospital and apologize for her. And I'm sure you know that a president apologizing is something we are familiar with. But this shows you how much his gratitude for Egyptian women. But many people, and I have to confess I was one of them, I said, well, words are easy to give, but it's important to see these words of appreciation translated into action. And this is really the real evaluation, how we can evaluation. I think he turned his words into action recently in a number of occasions. He formed advisory presidential councils. He formed so far 2, one on education and the second one on community development. And I must say that the gender representation or the gender composition in these 2 councils, I'm happy to see the gender and the age, youth, more youth are involved in this. Again, before I came, there are more councils to be formed, and we are still looking forward to see the gender representation. He appointed his national security advisor a female, and this is a very important position. And appointing a female in this position changes what we have been seeing females as Minister of Social Affairs or females, in soft ministries. This, even though we had a Minister of Economy, and but this is, I see a good sign. And then we see the 3 deputy governors appointed, which may not be satisfactory because we wanted to see women as governors. But this is a good training for them, considering the internal situation of dissatisfaction or popular dissatisfaction in Egypt right now. Most people don't want to serve because they know that they will be grilled by the public. The public has become very critical, and they're not only critical, they're impatient. So some people may be high with popular satisfaction, and if they don't deliver or they're not perceived to deliver, then they immediately fall out of favor. So maybe this will be good for Egyptian women to be inside the kitchen, and hopefully next time we will have female governors. There are many developments that happened. I'm just giving you a brief overview of some milestones because I don't want to take the time of questions, and I have a very tough chair of the session. I know Hale very much. So the strong thing for Egyptian women was that they formed a very strong voting bloc. But I have to say that they have not as yet translated their voting power into sharing power or being in the decision-making process. And I think the onus is on women themselves. They must unite, they must put an agenda, and they should bargain with any candidate, be it presidential or parliamentarian or whatever. We will vote for you if you do 1, 2, 3. But then the question is, how do women vote? Do women, and Stanford University has made a study on the women voting patterns, and this was 2005, and I think now we need another study. Women, do they vote according to what they believe, or they vote according to what the male in their life wants, or they want to vote for the economic benefit they get out of their vote? We've seen some candidates who can buy the votes of women. So, in a nutshell, I would say that Egyptian women are recognized. For the first time, we see the semi-official newspaper have the editorial on Egyptian women with the title, The Heroic Struggle of Egyptian Women, 2 full pages. And this is not, I cannot say it's without precedence, because there were precedents in the 1919 revolution when women came out and demonstrated. They were praised, and that was it. So history repeats and does not repeat itself. I think that women have become a force to reckon with. They are not taken lightly. At least the decision makers need to justify why women were not chosen. Like when the 3 deputy governors were sworn in, the Federation of Egyptian Women, the Feminist Union, and the head of the National Council for Women attacked the appointment of, or the lack of appointment of women. And one of them said it's unconstitutional because we don't have women governors. So this is unconstitutional. Today, they are definitely better off, at least 18 months after June 2013. At least they have their rights guaranteed by a constitution that has a very solid chapter on human rights. And the constitution criminalizes for the first time discrimination and violence. It even stipulates for the establishment for a commissioner or a high commission to eliminate discrimination. The constitution also commits Egypt to the human rights standards, the international human rights standards. So any Egyptian woman now can take the Egyptian government to court according to CEDAW or the Convention Against Torture or any human rights convention. Of course, this constitution, like Marina, you called it aspirational constitution. So to change it from an aspirational constitution to an operational legal document, we need a battalion of laws. And this brings me to the following point, which is the parliamentary elections which are approaching and how women will be represented in this parliament. This parliament will be very important. It will be very important because it will enjoy the highest authority compared to any parliament that Egypt had in the future. It will be important because no party will have a majority, and the process of legislation will be a tedious one. It will involve a lot of lobbying and negotiating. So it will be really the inside kitchen of true democracy. And this is where Egyptians will have to abide by rules that may be different. So this brings me to the ability of women to be adequately represented in the parliament, and this will depend on the ability of liberal parties to unite. For anyone following the developments in Egypt, the liberal parties are still very divided, and they cannot agree on a common list. And according to the current electoral law, women stand an easier chance if they are appointed on the party closed lists. Mainstream Egyptians or the past 4 years have shown Egyptian political participants pooling together in the wake of imminent dangers, yet falling apart and failing to build a strong opposition based on commonality thereafter. So the question now, can we expect the Egyptian liberal parties to be united now that Egypt is going through its current phase of fighting terrorism, and especially that now the terrorist attacks have moved from the military, from targeting the military and the police into targeting ordinary citizens in metro stations or restaurants. Having said this, I want to probably finish by talking about two solid gains that Egyptian women have achieved. Hale has mentioned the article I wrote about the criminalization of female genital mutilation. I'm really, really proud to see the appeals court sentence a physician for performing female genital mutilation. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison and a fine. Moreover, sentencing the father, though the verdict is, or the sentence of the father is suspended, but it is a message because the actual perpetrators are the parents. If the parents will not drag the girl to the clinic, the girl will not be cut. So I find this historical. And it came at a time when the world was celebrating the Day of Zero Tolerance for against female genital mutilation. This is historic, and I'm personally proud because I am the one who initiated, engineered, and coordinated and lobbied for the criminalization. So finally, after this was done in 2008, now in 2015, we have the first penal court decision. I think this is a big victory for women. The second achievement is the sexual harassment. Sexual harassment, I know if you follow the Reuters-Thomson report, it said Egypt was perceived, and I have to underline perceived, as the worst place for women, and it spoke about sexual harassment. The credit for the achievement in the fighting sexual harassment goes only to women, because it was only women who lit the spark against this. They formed NGOs, they formed monitoring units. So the penalty was harshened and the prosecution took place. And of course, the visit of the president to the victim and his apology to her and his promise to her, he told her, I promise you, it will not happen again. Of course, such a solemn declaration will not stop it, but it is a signal that the society was waiting, no tolerance to sexual harassment. As a matter of fact, the incidence of sexual harassment has declined because the message is quite clear. So I say that we must raise our head to Egyptian women. They have really established themselves as symbols of courage, wisdom, innovation, and self-denial. But the space of their achievement is not commensurate with their efforts, we have to admit. We could have achieved much more than what we have achieved so far. And we need to dig deeper and uproot the obstacles through re-education. And I really underline education. And like I said, education is not only in the classroom, education is in the church, the mosque, on TV screens, in the clinics, wherever you go, this is where we need re-education. It's unfortunate that many decades of increased radicalism and the clever manipulation of religion has skewed cultural values and taken us back to the dark ages. We need to change the way people think and pull the average mindset out of the rut it has been stuck in for decades. I say this really with my blood boiling because we've seen how the religion have been manipulated to subjugate women. We need to revert to the culture that once was one where Egyptian women had first started attaining their basic rights before many European countries. In the mid-50s, we had women members of the parliament. When we had the Islamists in power, we could see on television people advocating the minimum age of marriage for 7 or even 6 years old. And we've seen other incidents of degrading women, and the first attempt by the parliament in 2011 and 12 was to decriminalize female genital mutilation, lower the minimum age of marriage. And thank God that we've done this work with the participation of the civil society, that the civil society defended these laws because they felt they have a stake in this. This is their victory. So the recent case of FGM conviction, is a leap towards reshaping the mentality to give women. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Jane wanted to say something.
I didn't get your attention, and I'm late. And unfortunately, Lisa Monaco, who's the counterterrorism advisor in the White House, is coming here in 5 minutes. So I just wanted to come down, interrupt for a minute, welcome you here, tell you how much the women and men at the Wilson Center admire you. Thank you. Especially our fierce woman in charge, Hala, and others in this room, including me. And I've seen you in action. Thank you. And obviously there's a lot of work to do in Egypt. It hasn't been a smooth road, but compared to some places where the direction is totally backwards, like Afghanistan, Egypt has an opportunity to build on some serious reforms. And all I wanted to say was, we have held more women's programs, more programs on women in the Middle East than any place on the planet. I think Hala's up to 4,000,003, and there's a reason why we've been doing this, because women need support, and by airing issues, both the good and the bad, and before an audience, inside here and on through live streaming, we are building the kind of support that I know you need. So I just wanted to say, good luck in Egypt. A lot of us are cheering you on. Egypt has had some very good chapters on women. This one is, okay, not great, but with your blood boiling, Mushira, which it does all the time, we're optimistic that when you come back, there's going to be more progress. So my apologies to everybody, but I did want to say hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I just have 1 minute to close. I say the recent case of FGM conviction is a leap towards reshaping the mentality to give women the respect that they deserve as pivotal cogs in the wheel of life, and more importantly, as fellow humans. Because some people, when they talk about women's rights, they forget that it is human rights. There was a quote by the Pope of the Vatican. He said, although women are a symbol of life, the female body is unfortunately attacked and disfigured even by those who should be its protector and life companion. So I would like to reiterate my firm belief that the only way to achieve solid progress that is based on a sound foundation is through re-education and re-engineering the cultural mindset. Egyptian women are moving forward, and they will move even faster, because I think we're getting out of the bottleneck, and I'm very optimistic about the future of Egyptian women and the future of Egypt. And we count on your support, and I want to thank Jane Harman for her words, and we bank on your support as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Consuela. Let me ask you the first question. The quota system, which helped women being elected and appointed to parliament, was abolished under SCAF. And we saw that in the following election, the number of women dropped to 2%, from 12%, the number of women who got elected to parliament. The quota system has not been reinstated. So what is your sense of the upcoming elections? I mean, you talked about women being mobilized, women being, running for parliament. Is your sense that, being very modest, we'll get at least those 12% back or not?
Well, we got and didn't get the quota system because we got a certain quota at the local level, 25% for women and 25% for youth in the local elected councils. Yeah. In the parliament, we did not get the quota, and there was a struggle in the article concerning women, when women wanted to put just representation, and they only settled for appropriate representation. Just representation would have given women automatically 50%. So insofar as the parliament, we don't have a quota, but the parliamentary election law, which was approved, put the voting pattern 80% individual and 20% party lists. And in the party list, there must be on any list 3 women at least. With the most
of the list or at the
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because this is a closed list. The list that gets the majority of votes get the whole as a whole. So women, this law has been criticized by many people, but it plays well for women. With the most pessimistic assessment, women can get 9%.
9%.
Yeah, or 10%. I want to be, very reserved, but they can get as high as 12, 15, hopefully. And that's why I say it all depends on the agency of women now, how they organize themselves. That's why I say it's a mixed bag. It depends how you look at it. Have they won or not? I think they're pushing themselves now, and now women are trying to prepare themselves to go and present themselves to the voters, and let's follow. and see, hopefully. Yeah.
Marina?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up.
Marina, can you wait for the mic, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on this issue of how many women are going to be elected. Now, there is, if my math is correct, you are going to get about 60 women elected on the party
Yes,
list, right?
yes.
Do you think women will also get elected on the individual seats? Or because that, it seems to me, does not play in favor of women.
You're absolutely right, Marina. The individual running as an individual is more difficult. It requires more money and more clout. But some women are running on the individual list and they stand to win. We have women really who are very popular among their constituency. And they know that they have a name and people trust them. Of course, the number will be much smaller than what they will get on the list, also because of the money it takes to run a campaign. Yeah. But right now, the Feminist Union, the National Council for Women, in cooperation with UN Women, in cooperation with UNDP and other UN agencies, are training potential candidates on lobbying and raising funds. Really, there is a lot of enthusiasm and determination to have a place at the table. Yeah.
Barbara?
Thanks. Barbara Slavin from the Atlantic Council. Moshe, it's always great to see you in Washington.
Thank you.
I have to ask, all of this is lovely, but meanwhile there are 20,000 political prisoners, and I would assume a lot of them are women. We have had no accountability on the part of the police for many, many, many hundreds, thousands even, civilian deaths since 2013. Most recently, this young woman poet who was shot in Tahrir. How can you talk about advancement for women when the human rights situation overall in Egypt remains so cloudy?
Thank you, Barbara. And really, when you say the human rights situation, I claim myself as an expert on human rights. It's the state has a responsibility to protect every citizen. In a situation of targeting innocent civilians, at least you have to send the message that the state is vigilant, that it will protect every citizen. So where you draw the line between the collective rights of the community and the individual rights of every single person. And when you see the terrorist attacks, it's not confined to Sinai, because some people are, how do you say it in English, hailing the efforts to clean Sinai from terrorism, but it resonates in restaurants or in the metro station because it's a war. It's a game. So the state knows very well that it is accountable on human rights. We are in the 21st century. And if it's not accountable by international organizations, it's accountable by Egyptians who raise hell for any occasion. You referred to Shayma al-Sabbagh. I really invite everyone to have a look at the picture how she was shot, carrying flowers and going to lay wreath. Why would anyone kill a girl like this? And the pictures have been all over the place. And I think the police has enough on its plate that it is willing to even compromise more its image by targeting Shayma. This is a question I put for everybody, and I also put the declaration by the Minister of Interior that there is investigation, and they are very determined to pin down who did it. And there are 3 cameras in the location where she was shot, and they are emptying the films of these cameras because it's not only that the international community wants to see. The Egyptians now are very alert to this. They are highly politicized, and everyone is on the watch. So let's hope that we pin down the reality, who killed Shaimaa in cold blood, and bring them to justice. And I think you're someone who's following closely what's happening in Egypt. People will not let it go. As for those in prison, there is scrutiny not only for women but for children who are being held, and why they were held. And is it done through court orders, or it's on the whim of a police officer who decided to collect them and throw them in jail? And I think all the debate is open, and anyone who has a proof can go and submit it. And the judiciary is very watchful, and even some of the sentences that were debated, like the life sentences that were given, they were all dismissed.
Yes, please. But,
Why
we
the
have-
judiciary? Why the judicial inspection unit? Yeah.
And I ask, because we have very little time left and a lot of questions, so can I just have you please put a short question, otherwise I'll interrupt you. Thank you. Short questions, please, because we just have 10 minutes left.
Sure. My name is Amin Mahmoud with the Center of Egyptian-American Relations. Dr. Mushira, what is your opinion of the violence committed against Egyptian women and children? Some was killed, tortured, humiliated, raped, dragged on the street, and raping boys and girls, Muslim and Christian, in the prison. And it's not enough to talk about the court, as you said. The court is corrupted, the police is corrupted, the military staff is corrupted, and really Egypt in a crisis, and you try to make it look good, and I don't appreciate
That's
that.
it. Thank you. Just, we'll get to you, Mushira.
Well, I don't
Brief
think
answers.
I don't think I have an answer, because you put the question and you answered it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, yes, please. Just wait for the mic, please.
Lee Woodman, you said the hope for improvement was through education and understanding of culture. If you could give a little more nuance about what you mean by culture. Are you talking about religion, literature, art,
Yes,
music?
it's a, culture used to be defined as fine arts, and culture was for sophisticated elite, but nowadays culture is habits, traditions. Egyptians are by nature very tolerant people. I mean, I'm old enough to have lived in a time where women had more freedom than, and they had more space than we recently had. And this, like I said, we had imported traditions, imported practices that were foreign to our culture. I went to college, and there was not one single woman forced to cover her hair or wear a black dress or cover her face or not allowed to join here or there. And we have the Egyptian history. You can easily follow this. So I think we have been exposed to foreign habits and practices and cultures that day by day the space left for Egyptian women were, getting smaller and smaller. To change this, it's not enough to pass a law or make a decree. You have to unpack these newly imposed habits. Like some people say now, when a husband dies, the woman must stay at home for 6 months, doesn't go out. We've never heard this before, but every day you have newly invented habits. And so you have to start focusing on educating the young people, educating the religious people in the church and the mosque, and you have to look at the teachers, what the teachers say in the classroom, because as it turned out, teachers were an instrument in curtailing this space and instilling this new culture of segregation between the different sexes. We have to realize that it's not a matter of laws, it's a matter of talking to the people, explaining to the people, regaining the authentic Egyptian culture.
Yes, please. Just a short question, please. Thank you.
Manar Ghunaim, Middle East News Agency, Egypt. First of all, I highly appreciate your presentation, Ambassador, and I want to just to focus on how do you see that the efforts that should be exerted in order to focus more on the merits more than the gender discrimination. I mean that the Egyptian woman now, I think, has many of her rights, like, for example, she has equal wages, salaries, she has her voting rights from a very long time ago. So the Egyptian woman has already her own rights in these political spheres. So I want you just to see how, is it only education that we have to focus on, or we have to play more on the NGOs, or what? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very important question. The role by the NGOs is very important. But I'm afraid that sometimes when we say the role of NGOs, we relieve the state from its responsibility. We have to know that it is the state is the primary duty bearer. They have to ensure, and they ensure this through laws, but laws are not enough, because many countries have perfect laws, but they don't see the daylight. So you have to ensure the implementation of the law. I'll give you a very small example, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm not interfering with the independence of the judiciary or what have you. You have the personal status law was amended to give women the right to divorce and certain rights in child visitation and child custody and so on and so forth. So when you go to the court, instead of the judge implementing the law, he goes to the woman and he tells her, you want to ruin your life, what will you do as a divorcee? The society will, look down upon you. Be a good woman, go and put up with your wife or husband for the sake of children. This judge needs to be educated. You see? Of course, if a judge hears me say that, he say, who are you to educate a judge? But we have to confess, judges are part of the culture. Same applies to a policeman. If you go and report a sexual harassment, before he considers the case, he will look what you're dressed. And he say, of course, you've seduced the man because you're not covering your face. It's not enough to cover your hair. So this is what I mean, that you have to have laws, raise awareness, and a push for the implementation of the law and send the message that all are equal. This is one aspect. The other, the merit. I think women are good. And sometimes they say we hire men because we don't have enough qualified women. This is wrong. This is really, again, a cultural judgment that is biased. I hope I answered your question. It's a very important one, but needs more time, and the chair will not allow.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Kent Davis-Packard from the U.S. Department of State. There was a poll taken about a year ago that said that about 80% of Egyptian women are not part of any political party. Is this changing, and could this also be an advantage for women in that they're not part of the narrative, the polarized narrative between the Islamists and the seculars? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know the Islamists and the secularists, or maybe the Islamist women are more politically oriented and more affiliated with parties than the secular women. You are right in this. I want to say that it's not only women but the Egyptians in general were politically indifferent. Maybe because they felt that their voice will not matter, but they were politically indifferent. But this has changed sharply after 2011. We see now the Egyptian masses in general are more politically savvy, they're more involved, they follow the debates. For the first time when it was the drafting of the constitution, either the 2011 or 2012 or the 2014, people became more involved. The more people went into the nitty-gritty of constitutions, maybe not deep enough, but relatively speaking, more involved. I don't have figures, unfortunately, with me, but more people now and more women, naturally, are members of political parties. And in a very good development, and this is another step forward by Egyptian women, we have a female head of the Dustur party, which was formed by Mohammed al-Baradei, Hala Shukrallah. She was elected and she got the majority. And we have many politically active women, either as political analysts or activists or what have you. So that's why I say I am optimistic, because really the curve is going up. Maybe not as fast as it should, but eventually we should get out of this bottleneck and move forward. And I think it will be only women who can make the difference, because if they expect someone to do it for them, nobody will do it for them. They applaud them when they serve the public good, but when it's time to call for their own rights, they're deserted.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Phil Schrafer, retired international healthcare worker. I worked in Egypt from 1995 to 1998 with Dr. Mohammed Shahada in a USAID project. At the time there, we had an understanding that FGM was about 80% of women. I still have some contacts in Egypt, and I'm hearing now it's down to 50%. Would you agree to that great decrease?
It will be my dream if it's 50%, and I like to believe it's 50%. Maybe it's 50%, but the last we did was 66% average after the mega efforts that we have exercised up to 2011. After 2011, there was a sharp drop. Mohammed Morsi, as a presidential candidate, his electoral campaign included free circumcision in the villages. And I am not making stories, this is a fact. And he appeared on, there was a workshop, I think, in Cairo University at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, and he was asked about the law criminalizing female genital mutilation, and he said, I think this was, quote unquote, I think this was a mistake, this was a rushed decision to criminalize FGM, and the matter should be left to the discretion of the parents. And this was a signal to poor, uneducated, fragile communities in rural areas that now you have a free ride to FGM. And because of the Islamist control for 1 year and a half, or let's say 2 years and something, all activities on FGM became mute. They just caved in till the storm passes. We survived the decriminalization, but now they have resumed, and that's why I see big victory in the last court case to criminalize FGM. But I think it's 60-something. If you go, there is disparity. If you go to urban private schools, the percentage is less than 9%. You go to rural areas, it goes higher. But really, the people are very willing to change, especially that we've proved that it's not part of the religion, either Christianity or Islam or Judaism.
Yeah. Thank you very much. When I invited Dr. Khattab to speak today, I said, please just stick to gender issues, but we are going to have other speakers at the Middle East program discussing the political development in Egypt. It's not that we are sweeping it under the rug and so on, but this was really very specifically a talk on gender today. Please join me in thanking Moshira.
Thank you very much, Hala.